Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning in to my videos. Today we are back to school this week, so I figured, well, I'm not back to school, but some of you probably are, and it's just like, you know, the vibes, the mood of 1st of September. I figured what better way to celebrate than with fantasy books with school settings. This list has some super popular ones on, and then I feel like some that are a little bit hidden. But I tried to give you a very, very extensive list so that you could read something and enjoy it, because I know I love myself a magical school setting in fantasy books, so I hope you do too. And some of these are a bit of a stretch. I definitely have them broken down into categories. Let's start with one I talk about all the time on my channel, which is the book of the Ancestor Trilogy by Mark Lawrence. This is a school for assassin nuns. So this is, I guess, what matters is I don't count a school setting in terms of your typical, like, Harry Potter. I don't think that it has to be following someone go to school daily. It doesn't have to be like that kind of school. Like, some of my schools are a little bit more loose, and that's where I think this comes into play. Obviously, we're an assassin school for nuns, but we do follow Nona to class a lot. We get to see her go through things, and she has 4 years of schooling, and we get 3 books. We skip 1 year between books 2 and 3, but for the most part, you see her entire schooling. And I think that if you enjoy that, you will definitely like this. So the first book in the Book of the Ancestor Trilogy is Red Sister. We're following Nona Grey, who shows talent in the Old Blood, which is some kind of like magic, and there's different types of magic you can have. So she gets sent to Sweet Mercy Covenant, which is a school for assassin nuns. It takes 10 years to train a Red Sister in the ways of Blade and Fist. So Red Sister is the first year. We have Grey Sister. We have another sister, and then Holy Sister. Oh my gosh, this is one of my all-time favorite trilogies. Like, I'm obsessed with this series, and if you haven't read it, I definitely think you should pick it up. If you like a little bit of grimdark, like, it is a little bit darker, and the second book has one of my favorite characters of all time in it. I can't really tell you without, like, spoiling anything, but definitely, like, please get to the second book. I absolutely adored this series. I gave the first book 4 stars, the second book 5 stars, and the last book 4 stars, and I definitely will be keeping them forever. I need Mark Lawrence to come out with a special edition of them so I can have matching copies and be obsessed with them. Anyways, this is definitely a school setting, so you should definitely read it. Technically sci-fi, but we have Skyward and Starsight. I think both of these count as a school setting. Not every series has a school setting in all 3 of the books, or all of the books, but I think this one counts. In Skyward, we have a very typical school setting. She goes to flight school, and then in Starsight, we have a little bit of a different school setting, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I read this book. I don't know if the third book has a school setting in it, but I definitely think I would count both of these as that type of setting. Now, Skyward follows Spencer, who has always wanted to be a pilot to kind of like make her dad's name clean. At some point her dad betrayed mankind and now is a traitor, and Spencer's just kind of trying to prove, because she believes that her dad wouldn't have done the things that they're saying he does, and she wants to be a pilot and be able to prove that what they're saying is wrong, and just kind of like get retribution and just shout to the world that, look, my dad's not a traitor, and also I can be a pilot too. That was a lame synopsis, but I feel like that gets the gist, and like that kind of gets your personality for Spencer. When I read this at the time, it was a 5-star read. Would I think it's a 5-star read now? Probably not. It is a YA book, but I definitely adored it the time I read it, and I remember Spencer being like very like relatable and kick-ass, and I really enjoyed Spencer's character, and Doomslug. Doomslug is adorable. I also love Doomslug. One I recently read is Dragon Mage. Now, this list is not all books I loved and adored, so I don't know if I could call this a recommendation list, but it is just like books I've read with school settings and that you might like, and I will tell you if I didn't like it. I gave this one a 2.5. You can see my entire thoughts on it in the Dragon vlog on my channel, but also there's a live show coming up for the Femmes Aficionadas hosted by Hannah, whose link will be in the description video, that we will have a live show coming up to talk about this. There's 4 of us chatting away. Dragon Mage has 2 school settings within it, so take that as you will. Dragon Mage follows Oran, our protagonist, And Marcus, who is also kind of our protagonist, Oran, is when something happens, Oran and Marcus both figure out that they're the chosen one, and they leave on this quest. And there's kind of a cool, and that's really as far as I want to tell you. Essentially, Oran is like the chosen one, and Marcus is his friend who's like gonna help him along the way. And just like, I can't explain this book without spoilers, especially because I didn't like it that much. It's chunky and it's a hopeful story. If you're looking for a hopeful story to read, this one is very hopeful. It's about a boy who is actually on the autistic spectrum, being the hero that you don't get to see boys play and like be in that position that are like him. So I do think it's a beautiful story in those terms. And then I have the Souls Aspect, which is an indie book. The Souls Aspect, you can see my thoughts on in the SBFBO vlog that I did, the very first one. I'll link it down below. And I gave this book a 3-star. It is very classic fantasy. It follows lots of classic tropes, but there is a cool school setting, and the elevator in the school setting is really, really fun. And the story just follows a boy who is a child of the doctor in this small town when he finds out he has the ability to use the magic of the world, and then he has to go to the magic school to kind of learn how to use it, and it's not all that it seems, and people that are like him don't always go that far in the world and community and the school, and there is a bit of a mystery to it. Yeah, if you're looking for just like a fun light read and a indie read, definitely pick up The Souls Aspect. And then we have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is a dark academia fantasy book. This is one of the most dark academia books that I've read that actually I feel like counts as fantasy. We are following our protagonist who is in a school that is out to kill them. I adored this book when I read it. I gave it 5 stars. I still haven't read the second book, and I probably should change that. But within this book, we're following just like this protagonist who I found her relatable. She's very whiny, she's very angry, but I did find her relatable, and she is just trying to survive this school without using this dark power that she has, and she ends up befriending like the school popular boy, and it's just a fun time, and I really liked I loved the relationship and the banter between those two, and I really, really enjoyed this one. And when I think about it, I'm like, how have I not read the second one yet? And I personally really enjoyed the audiobook, but I know not a lot of people did. The next one on this list is the Villains Duology by V.E. Schwab. I want to say particularly only the first one. This one's a little bit of a stretch. It's again a little dark academia. It's also a sci-fi, not a fantasy technically. Same with the Skyward series. But we are following our 2 protagonists who start out in university, so the whole plot of the Villains Duology and their superpowers relies on their final school project, and you kind of get to see them work on it, and I really, really also adored the Villains Duology. It's fun, it's different, it's fast-paced, and we are following very, very morally gray characters. It's just a good time, and I mean, there's superpowers, and there's cool superpowers, so definitely check this one out. And we're going to kind of make a stretch to like military academies, kind of. So the first one I'm going to put on here is Daughter of Red Winter. I recently read this and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I had a really good time with it. It's a book that you would have expected me to hate, but for some reason it just really worked for me. This one is a bit of a school, but not really. Our protagonist actually isn't allowed to go to the school and instead like follows the kids along as their like servant, but gets to go to the classes and learns. And I really enjoyed this one. This is perfect for spooky season. It's got ghosts in it. The magic system I think is really fun. It's a really light fantasy in my opinion. So like not what you would normally expect from me. And the main character is, I will say she's a little dry, but she's meant to be, and I adored the reasons she was dry because it had to do a lot with grief, or their more of lack of grief, and I really related to that lack of grief and kind of that standoff feeling when things go bad around you. I really enjoyed this one, and there's some tension in this one that I also really enjoyed for all my romance girlies out there. Like, don't think romance, like is non-existent, but like just a little tidbit of like tension that got me excited. Obviously, if we're talking military schools, there's the Poppy War. The school setting in this is only actually for like the first 50%. We're following Rin, who is a dark-skinned girl from the Rooster province who ends up passing an exam that gets her free scholarship to the most elite academy, where she trains to be a military soldier, and she has to prove to everyone that she can do what they can do better, and that she's going to be the best and take everything and everyone down. It is a dark story, and Rin is not the most relatable, but I adored Rin because she makes so many stupid decisions, and you're just sitting there and you're like, why, Rin? Why? That was so stupid, but at the same time, you're like, I feel for you. Like, I get it. And I just adored it. And I will scream from the rooftops that this book is amazing. I will say, though, there are two types of people in the world: people who like the first half better, or people who like the second half better. If you like the second half, which is actually during the war and in the war, you will like the rest of the trilogy. But if you end up liking the first half better, which is the school setting, you might not like the rest of the trilogy as much. Although there are people who still love it, and I loved all of this book. The next one I'm putting on this list is Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson. Now, there are 2 school settings in this. We follow 4 characters, 2 of which have no school setting, and 2 of which who do. We have a nun who is going to a nunnery and kind of learning, so I think that kind of counts. I like that I called it a nunnery, a convent. And then we have a military academy, and the military academy is really what I think screams school setting, and that was my favorite protagonist, and I loved him, adored him, and you really get to see him train a little bit, and his thoughts, and I really adore Illborn, and the second book was just announced officially, so I'm excited. I am excited. I need to get my hands on it. It comes out early next year. And this follows a world where they used to have the Lord Adul, who had these special gifts, and when the Lord Adul passed away, he was like their savior. Their Jesus Christ, essentially. It's very heavy on the Christianity. And now we have, 800 years later, we have 4 young men and women who wake up with powers, and they kind of have to conceal their powers, but they also have to figure out why they got these powers. They're also getting a strange vision because the church is actually trying to kill anyone with these abilities and get rid of them. And it's just a very deep story, and I tell you what, go online, read the sample prologue for this book, and you will be addicted. It's one of the best prologues I've ever read, hands down. Another one we all know and love is Rage of Dragons. I don't own the first book, so I always hold up the second. The Rage of Dragons, it's only in the first book. It is a training military academy, and we really see Tao go through it in this training. It's a very training montage after training montage after training montage, but that's something I adored because you really got to see Tao's skill improve and grow. It didn't feel just magically Tao got better and Tao was wonderful at everything. And Rage of Dragons follows Tao. Tao is a lesser race in this world, and something happens to him by someone who is of a greater race. And Tao gets set off to revenge what happens, and it's a dark story. And it's not... And that's really all I can say. It just goes to a military academy because he wants to be the best. He wants to prove that he can do everything all these greater races can do. And that he is incredible and amazing and strong. And Tao is incredible, and Evan Winter can write. Evan Winter can write so good. So definitely pick this one up. And then we have an Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This is another military academy, obviously. That's the section of this we're in. This follows 2 protagonists. We follow Laia and Elias. Elias is one of the students in this military academy. He is a soldier who is dominating this world. Elias is a civilian whose brother ends up being arrested for treason, and she ends up being a spy inside the academy for the rebellion in order to try and get him out, and Elias and Laia meet, and there is some romance and things happen, but I was really intrigued by the world and the military part. I loved the military academy in this. It's very harsh, it's very brutal, and those are words that came up a lot in this video. I love harsh and brutal things. But yeah, I recommend this one. Now, the last 2 I'm putting on this list aren't really school settings. I would say they're actually competition settings, but I feel like they give me same vibes. I don't have enough books to do a competition setting, so here we are with just adding these in here. The first one is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. We're following Selena Sardonthian, who is an assassin who's been in this prison for a year. And this prison, she's essentially was sent to die in, and she wasn't supposed to last this long, but she did. And the prince comes and asks her to be his champion for this tournament of champions. So essentially all of these people in this kingdom, these princes and high lords, got to pick a champion to compete in order for the best champion to become the king's assassin, king's champion, and we just get to watch Selena do it. This is a fantasy romance. It is YA. I have only read the first and second, and I'm not planning on continuing the series, but I actually really, really adored the first book of this and really enjoyed it. And I mean, if you're a fantasy romance girly, pick this up. And if you're just, wow, this is how much I was paying attention. There's been a sticky note on this entire time. This book is actually in my on-haul pile, so I don't know how that got in it. But, I loved the competition in this, and you know what? There is, like, you know, if you've read The Hunger Games or in the Hunger Games movies, how they have those, like, training moments, they have that in this, and so that's why it gives me a school setting vibes, because although they are, like, in a tournament, they do have, like, every day they go to, like, the gym area and train together. And then we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Similar, this one's always compared to The Hunger Games. It is a sci-fi, and we watch Darrow, who will stop at anything to take down his enemies, and he ends up trying to make his way up from being a red, the lowest of the reds, the lowest of the lows, to being a gold, and he has to go to this, like, academy thingy where he's put into, like, this place where he just has to fight to the death. I really adored the Red Rising series. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's a really good YA to adult transition. It definitely fits somewhere in the middle there, and I definitely would recommend it. If you haven't picked it up, I full on think that you should pick it up. Also, if you're looking into getting into sci-fi, this is a really good one to start with. Definitely pick this up. It's a great retribution. That's all I have on this list for you. I feel like I did a lot. I hope some of them... Is that all I have on this list? I hope that some of them were new to you. And if you have any recommendations for ones that other people should read or anything like that, please leave them down below. We love to know a good new school setting. I know there's a couple that I want to read. I do know Prairie has a cool setting too, but I DNF'd it twice, so it couldn't be on this list. And if you made it all the way to the end of this emoji and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me some sort of school emoji. We're back to school, whether that's a pencil, a pen, a notepad, an apple, anything like that. And if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.